Alrighty, so Lawrence McElroy here. Sorry for the little delay. I have technical issues with Facebook again. So I am actually on my phone. So this is going to be a little bit odd. I'm not sure what's going on with the laptop version. So probably have to pick up and move my phone around a little bit as I'm doing this morning session. So, as many of you know, I'm doing these live sessions on Monday morning at 10 a.m. and Tuesday morning, for now, at 10:15 a.m. The Monday morning session, although it's for the greater public, is also specifically set up because normally, in normal circumstances, we would be at Sachem Public Library, and at 10 a.m. class would be starting at 10 a.m. So that's the reason the Tuesday morning is for our suspended program at West Babylon Public Library. There you go. That's what we're doing today. A couple things. One other little bit of business. Some of you already know that I did something on Friday for the Sachem folks specifically. And those who don't know need to reach out to me so I can share that information with you as well. You can use Facebook Messenger if you want to. I did put it on pause right now so I don't get any messages while I'm doing this that I can't answer. So after I finish the live session this morning, I'll take it off the pause. And you can use Facebook Messenger on the Water Tiger School page. You can use Facebook Messenger on the Lawrence McElroy Facebook page. And again, this is specifically for the folks who have been attending the Sachem Public Library program. So there's that. I'd like to share that with you. If you already know what I'm talking about, you don't have to reach out. So there's that. The print is a lot smaller here. So let me see. Good morning, Colette. Oh, no sound. Okay, that's great. Huh. I got nothing. Because there should be, as far as I know, sound. Does anybody have sound aside from Colette? Okay, sound is back. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Is it still on? Because I'm setting my phone in a certain position. It may not be conducive to the microphone. Okay, so it's still on. Okay, cool. So anyway, there you go. If you already know, of course, you don't have to reach out again because you already have the information. And if you want to drop me an email or a text, that's okay too. I don't really, I don't use any contact information I have for any other reason than specifically our program at Sachem Public Library and news about it, and then only in emergencies, because that's really the library's job to reach out to the patrons, and I'm not really supposed to have your contact information. But anyway, so today what we're going to do, a little warm-up. From the 9 temple exercises, what we call at Water Tiger School, prayer wheel. And then we're going to play a little bit with a walking exercise that has been a staple in some of our public events on Long Island. So I'm going to move this maybe, I don't know where. If I knew this was going to happen, I would have brought my tripod down because I have this really fancy tripod that I can use with my iPhone. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of a view that'll get you to my feet. Well, not quite there, but it is what it is. So feet shoulder wide, right? And remember, at Water Tiger School, we define shoulder width by the drop of the shoulders, right? So not the outside of the delt, nowhere on top of the trapezius muscle or what I call the lufarigno muscle, but the actual initial drop of the shoulder, So that should split the heel and that side in half. The other should split the heel and that side in half. So right now the feet should be parallel. We're just going to start with a little shake here. Got something else in my pocket I can get rid of. So the other thing with being on the phone is that, I'm not sure what happens when I'm on Facebook Live and a call comes in. Because usually when I'm doing these live sessions, maybe some huggers, I put the phone on airplane mode like I do when I'm in the room. So prayer wheel involves being in the Tai Chi stance, and that's also the walk that we're going to do is based in the Tai Chi stance from Water Tiger School's perspective. So that's where we're going to start. Feet remain shoulder width. Shoulder width is determined by where the heels are, not where the balls of the feet are. So if I bring my heels inside and my toes, the balls of my feet are still at my shoulder width. You probably can't see the blue tape that I took time to put on the mat this morning, but it's right there. My toes, my balls of my feet are still more or less on those blue lines. But my heels are really close together at the bottom. I'm not shoulder wide. Doesn't matter where my toes and the balls of my feet are. My heels are out, and again, my toes or the balls of my feet are still at my shoulder width. I'm not shoulder wide. It's only when my heels are. When my heels are at my shoulder width, and I have the toes pointed into my center line, I'm still shoulder wide. When my heels are still at my shoulder width and my toes are pointed out, I'm still at my shoulder width. So there's that. The foot that is going to be our back foot, we're going to turn it out to somewhere around a 45-degree angle. What does that mean? Well, straight to camera, more or less, to straight to my right side is a 90-degree angle. So you don't need to download a protractor app and do a lot of mathematics. You just have to sort of look at that space and point your toes at about the midpoint between straight forward and to the side. And the reason I say about a 45, some people have ankle and other, foot, knee issues that, they have to be a little bit in, so the toes are moving a little bit more toward the front. Some people might have to be a little bit out, sort of moving out toward the side, but as close to the 45 as possible. Now we put enough weight in that foot so we can just step the other foot forward, but maintain that shoulder width. So from side to side, I still have the same distance here as I had when my foot was back here. So I'm not moving the foot forward and in, making it a narrow stance. I want to keep that shoulder width. And you don't want to go too long, right? It's a static position at this point in the morning, so you can probably afford to maybe do a little bit longer than you would if you were doing a walk in the Tai Chi stance or doing a form. Now, I'm going to turn sideways for a moment. I'll turn to my right. So you can see when I am forward, I've got about 70% of the weight on my front foot, about 30-40% of the weight on my back foot. My back heel is driving down and back. I'm not putting my weight and my emphasis in that back foot into the ball of the foot. It's back to the heel. My hips have rotated, so I'm facing this direction, but my shoulders and my hips are that direction. And the safest place for your knee is over the ankle. Right? So if you have knee issues, knee injury, that's probably where you want to be. We're actually okay if we go a little beyond that. So I'm a little bit over the top of the foot, but if I go over or beyond the toes, I'm going to be in trouble. The other thing we have to remember, and I'm going to face you again, is that the front toes have to be forward or in toward my center line. So they can be angled in toward my center line or forward. I do not want to be in this position at this point with my toes pointed out away from my foot. I don't know if you can tell on the screen or not, but as I turn and put my toes out, I've taken weight off that leg, so I'm not putting the spiral pressure on my knee. So there you go. This is our four stance on one side. It's really the same on the other side. You bring that foot back at this point, turn it out to around the 45. Maybe one foot can be at the 45 and the other cannot, and that's fine. The other foot forward, squaring off the hips. I need to narrow that up a little bit. It was raining this morning, my left ankle, well, really it's in the foot more than the ankle, isn't too cooperative at the 45 today. And again, knee over ankle safest, knee over top of the foot okay, over or beyond the toes bad. Now what we're going to do in these two positions, now to me, with my right foot forward, this is a right four stance. To other people, it would be a left four stance. We'll explain that as the morning unfolds, probably, if I remember. Right? I'm going to go back to my first side in a moment. Prayer wheel, that's the lower body. Well, let's get the movement in there. I'm a little discombobulated because of the whole going live issue this morning. I didn't know it wasn't going to work until I hit the go live button, and I didn't go live. So we're going to sit back into the back leg, but notice I'm not turning the upper body. Right? So as I set in more weight into the back leg than the front leg, I can bring the ball of the front leg off the ground, by the way, here. Right? We'll need to do that as we walk in a little bit. My hips and my shoulders are still pointing right out straight to the side. I press the weight forward, keeping my knee in a safe position. I rock back. I rock forward. I rock back. Notice I'm not leaning forward as I go forward. I'm not doing this. I'm not leaning back as I go back. I'm doing this. Crown point of the head stays over the base of the pelvic bowl as I rock back and forth. So now that is the lower body. And get out of that, shake that out a little bit. So I'm using prayer wheel this morning because our walk this morning is grounded in the Taiji stance, so it's a good practice to get started. The upper body is going to have two patterns of movement in prayer wheel. It's also known as turning the prayer wheel. Can't remember the other one. Something about between heaven and earth. It'll be in the notes when I edit the video at the end of this morning's session. I know it's not churning. Churning is the one word that always comes to mind. Churning between heaven and earth. But that's not really the word. So palm to palm, about the distance of your waist, hip area, out away from the lower body, the pelvic bowl to start with, and heels of the palms in toward the chest, rounding sort of wheel-like as you move. And that's the first, what we refer to as the first direction. After we do that, in conjunction with the lower body rock a few times, we reverse it. Heels of the palms in toward the belly, fingertips slightly up and away from the chest. Notice this rounded movement, not round across the bottom and straight across the top. It's rounded in the two directions. So, a little shake, deep breath or two. Settling into our Tai Chi stance. So back foot at around the 45, hips square, because it's hip to be square. Knee over ankle over top of the foot. Hands palm to palm, fingertips slightly down and away. Now a lot of people start this in back stance. I like to start it in forward stance, but I'm right at the verge of my knee going too far. So to begin the movement, I'm going to turn sideways. No, we're not starting yet. So just bear with me. Just a little pulse to get going. And then this is what it looks like. And we want to seek to have a sense that the whole body is moving the hands. I'm not pumping them like I was when I was doing the basic setup demo. So breath and movement moves the hands and the arms. I don't. Moment, we're going to go 6 times in 2 different directions, change the stance, and do another 12. Breathe when you have to. I'll suggest a breath pattern. But maybe start with an inhalation, then exhale, and begin that first movement. Again, you can bring the ball of the foot up off the ground if you want. There's 1. Inhale now up over the top. Exhale down and out. 2. I'm going to keep my foot flat. Show that difference. 3, if you can see my feet. 4. 5. Just 1 more. Don't stop in reverse direction. Find a bounce and come back in. Maybe an inhalation back, inhale, and exhale out over the top. 2. 3. And at 6, as smoothly, as gently as possible, change the stance. So now I am in my right 4 stance. I'm just going to, I don't really have to close that particular exercise, but I noticed there was another comment. I just want to see what it is. Ah, okay. Hi, Steve. So back into the second stance. For me, it's my right 4 stance because the right foot is forward. The reason people would call this a left 4 stance is to get into it, you'd have to start with the weight in the left and then move to the right. I judge it by where I end up, not where I begin. FYI. I understand, I actually agree with the other version, but I understand and I like my way better. It's as simple as that. Right, so again, I'm in my 4 stance, so I don't want to push the knee too much farther than it already is, or it goes over or beyond the toes. So a little pulse in the first direction, there's 1. And again, maybe the ball of the foot has to come up on the second side, and it didn't on the first. Maybe the foot, like mine, my left ankle and foot has a whole bunch of screws in it from a non-martial related injury. And on days like this, when it's wet and damp on this aisle of length, a couple more. I think it's going to be more than 6 because I'm chatting. Exhalation out, breath and movement. Last time. A bounce, not a stop, brings the heels of the palms in toward the belly, fingertips out and away. Now I'm not leaning back, I'm not leaning forward, I'm also seeking to maintain exactly the same height. So I'm not rising up in the back leg and sinking down in the front leg. I'm maintaining the same distance, ideally, between my shoulders and head in the floor as when I started. I think about 3 more, and we'll be close to balancing the same number of repetitions in the second stance. 1 more. And the 9 temple exercises do not require a closing, and usually I don't do one, but since I did one in between as I went to check the phone. And there you go. Prayer wheel, Water Tiger School's version of the prayer wheel from the 9 temple exercises. And there's our warm-up for the day. So we have our Tai Chi stance, right? Basic understanding of that, shoulder wide. You know, imagine your railroad tracks. Our first foundational exercise is to walk the rails, so we maintain that idea of what shoulder width is. And then our Tai Chi walk takes the stance and puts it into movement. And we need that grounding before we can fly, because we're moving toward Tai Chi flying. So, which actually sort of links a little bit to what I'll be doing tomorrow morning for West Babylon, just FYI. So, our Tai Chi stance, our end position, sort of our posture position, our 4 stance position, our mountain climbing stance position is here, 70-30. And of course, when we walk, it's not just a matter of putting that foot forward like it is in walking the rails. There's a process. And for us at Water Tiger School, it takes 5 things to get from one side to the other. Now, some people might argue that that's not correct, that to move forward, it has to be constant. Again, you can understand that when you look at the Tai Chi principles, the Tai Chi classics, that sort of thing. And even when they say, you know, flow continuously like a river, that is part of the reason why they say it can't take 5 things. You always need to move forward. However, water, when it hits a rock, yes, it continues moving forward, but when it first hits the rock, there's that sort of backup so it can find that path around the rock. And that's what we do. It's also easier on the knees. So the 5 things are, this, by the way, the stance is number 2. 1 is actually putting the foot down. Not that way, but taking the step. Now I'm going to turn my back foot out to the 45. Now, to start with the Tai Chi walk, one of our 5 hand positions. So some of you know this, some of you could probably explain it better than I do. We have the hands on the belly, right? Sort of over the acupuncture point for the Xia Dan Tian. We have the hands behind the back. By the way, left over right or right over left, and from our point of view, whichever feels like it belongs next to the body is the one that belongs there. You go behind the back, you create a little hook. Get a little bit closer so you can see. Create a little hook with one hand. Set the other one in it, palms out. Same as in front, one hand over the other. Decide which feels better, right? You can do sort of the floaty arm thing. Just the wrist activation. Notice I'm not activating my elbows, just the wrists. And I think in that instance, the J word makes sense. Lightly closed fists, palms forward. When I do that, as some of you know, my body structure, muscle and bone structure pulls my hands out away from my body. You might go from here to here, and like me 10, 15 years ago, nothing happens. You just turn the wrist forward. Right? My normal teaching position, my hands on my hips, so you can sort of see what my hips are doing. All right, that's the idea. So when I turn that foot out to the 45 and step up, although you're probably looking at the screen, and I'll be looking at the screen as well, I should really be focused the same direction as my foot. Now I'm facing this way, but I'm going to step toward you, but over to my forestance position. So I reach that heel over to where that railroad track is. That's 1. 2, I turn and fill the foot. 3, I rock back. This time there is a turn, not like prayer wheel. I turn back in the direction from whence I came. I absolutely positively bring the ball of that foot up off the ground. That's 3. 4 is tricky. Danger, 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 warning Will Robinson. I want to open up the quad, where the inner upper thigh comes into contact with the pelvic bowl, like a book, which means this knee stays pointed the same direction as this foot, as this hip rotates in its socket and points that foot out at its angle. In other words, I am not pulling this back knee in the same direction. I am pointing those toes. If I do that, St. Charles orthopedists, they're really good, but now is still not the time to go to the hospital because we've done our Tai Chi wrong. Right? So that's 4. I've pivoted to the new direction. 5 is coming up and filling that foot. So there's the 5 steps. 1, I step to my shoulder width, just the heel. 2, I turn forward, ending with those toes forward. 3, I rock back, releasing the ball of the foot. 4, like the pages of a book, the quad opens, this knee stays pointed the same direction it was before I pivoted. That's 4. And 5, I come up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 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 The headless Tai Chi player. 1. Going to take 2 more steps. 2, 3. Rock back. Toes come with. That releases them, so when I do 4, all I have to do is pivot on that heel. 5. Now, this is my last step, so 1, 2, no 3, 4, and 5, our little casual close. So I should probably, just in case somebody's here who hasn't been here before for one of these, talk about that casual close. We want to move, once we start moving, and even as we start moving, we want to move in a Tai Chi-like fashion. So it's not disjointed. I mean, yes, the learning process is usually disjointed. And the first walking exercises are usually, okay, I got 1. Okay, now what comes after 1? Oh yeah, 2. And then what do I do on 3? Oh yeah, this is what I do on 3. So that's fine. So when we're sort of even jerky within that process, we can become smooth and fluid and experience movement through our whole body when we do, in this case, a casual close, which is just different than a formal close like we do at the end of most forms, but not all of them. Sometimes Water Tiger School has what we call a semi-formal close. So we take that last step, whatever it might be. I can go forward into my front foot, I can come back into my back, but whatever my hands are doing, wherever they are, however they're moving, they finish that task or they leave that place. And as I'm settling the weight, either forward or back, the hands are floating up, out, away from the body. So as the hands draw in, as if on top of a beach ball filled with helium, the foot is drawn in. But my heel is still in the air. I press down, I press that heel down. I'm lengthening my body in this instance. So then I can sink down, and that sinking down, and that sinking down, and that sinking down pulls my hands onto my lower abdominal cavity, right over the Shiadantian acupuncture point. So you can do the same thing and reverse the way that I do that final settling by up, out, up, out. Let me start that sentence again. Up, out, away from the body, settling the weight into that foot, hands in, foot in, heels in the air. Now I'm going to lower my body as I press down and press that heel down to reconnect with the earth and raise up out of it. So you get an opportunity, once again, to see the whole body in movement. It's not disjointed. It's all together. So, again, our 5 count. 1 is the step, facing the angle, same angle as my foot, heel down only, ideally, rolling onto the ball of the foot. Why did I just say ideally? Because if it helps to keep your toes forward, you can step the entire instep from inside of the instep, from heel to ball, foot down, with your toes pointed forward. So when you turn forward, you just roll into that foot pointed forward. See? Choices. I don't like just stepping the foot down flat, but if you need that, it's going to shorten your stance a little bit. That's not good. That's not bad. That just is. But it feels static to me, so I don't recommend that. So 1, you place the heel. 2, you fill the foot. 3, you rock back, release the ball of the foot. 4, you pivot to the new direction. And 5, you come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 more steps. 1, 2. 2 is the stance, the posture position. 3 is the release, the turn back. 4 is the pivot, opening like the pages of a book. And 5 gets you into the next ready position. Now just 1 and 2 here, because I'm at the last of my little review step. And boom. So that's the lower body. The upper body will work into that 5 count, but there's going to be a lot going on to match the 2. You really have to be on your game, which is why I love Tai Chi flying, because it really works that body awareness so you can keep track of where you are in your upper body and your lower body movement, so you can keep it linked together, so things are moving in conjunction with one another. To fly, we need wings. They're going to cross in front. They're actually, the direction will be they need to rise as high as they need to for your timing. They're going to drop down. They're going to open up. Now notice, as I'm doing this, as my wings are spread, if I hold this position, they're not straight. I'm not tweaking the shoulders. I'm in sort of that same position. If you were here a couple weeks ago, I think, when we did turn and circle, it's really sort of the same for the small circles. Shoulder is dropped. There's a decline from my shoulder to my elbow fold. There's an incline up the forearm. The hand drops down a little bit. So, those are the downy little feathers at the end of the wings. Boom. So that's my wingspan, left and right. From that, they drop down, they cross, they rise, they open. They drop down, they cross, they rise, they continue rising, and they open. Drop, cross, rise, and open. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. I believe is the tie to the bottom. I have to do this exercise before every time before I actually remember how the upper body ties to the lower body. All right, so we start and we step. 2, right? 5 and 1 is the rise. There we go. 2 is the open. 3, I rock back, the hands drop down. That's it, they don't cross yet. 4, on the pivot, they cross. 5, they begin to rise. And 1, they continue rising as long as they have to until the foot is down. And then as you turn forward is 2. Right? Here's the same position as when I was standing. Shoulders are dropped and relaxed. Chest is sunk, back is open. 3, coming in, keeping the chest sunk and the back rounded so there's a nice relaxation between the outside of the lats and the inside of the triceps and biceps. Oops, 3 is here. 4 is the cross, and that foot has turned out. 5, the rise begins. The back foot comes in, still rising into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into 1, 2. I'm going to close and just check to see what this message is because I'm, concerned about the sound from how things started. You're welcome. Colette, by the way, you're welcome. Really got to pay attention to how you close. So that's what the note was about. So that's how you bring the upper body and the lower body into our 5-count Tai Chi walk. 1 is the step, so that's the point where you're accenting or carrying the hands up higher. 2, filling the foot. You're in your 70-30 more or less. It can be 60-40, it can be 80-20. Really don't want to go too much more than 80 in the front foot. Don't really want to go too much less than 60% in the front foot. That's 2. 3, the rock back, the release, the ball of the foot comes with. From here, the hands drop down. There's a tendency to rush to the cross. Don't do that. They simply start the fold in. And folding in is probably a better way to describe that than dropping, because look at that position. Right? There's an opening there underneath my arms if I'm folding. If I just drop them, this is all dead. No part of the body should hang like meat on a hook. Right? So that's where I am when I rock back. 4, the pivot, the qua opens like the pages of a book. So that knee stays where it is, and that's when you cross. But the rise doesn't start, so you're timing that to there. As you start to fill that foot, to move into 5, the hands begin to rise. But that rise has to carry us through that foot landing down. So you don't want to be up here, right? You want to time it so everything can still stay open and relaxed. So you move into the next 2. 3, 4, there's the cross. 5, the rise begins. It continues. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into 1, 2. So I don't stay headless too long. I'm going to go ahead and do my casual closing. Sorry, I should have called that a little bit better. I could have closed a little bit better too. That was a little jerky. Boom. And that, my friends, is Tai Chi walking. Well, it's a Tai Chi walk exercise called Tai Chi flying. So the interesting thing is that you have to be grounded and solid to the earth to be able to soar. So a paradox, but what in Tai Chi that we do isn't a paradox. Tai Chi is about soaring. Tai Chi is not about soaring, it's about being rooted. Tai Chi is about being both rooted and soaring. One of my favorite articles of all times, it is not, it is. From Tai Chi magazine. Not years and years ago. Probably about 15 years ago, I think. Great article. Pretty much any principle, anything we talk about can be put in that context. It is not, it is. So, one last time, about 4 steps in a casual close that keeps the whole body together, and that's really the point of this exercise. 1, to give you experience in the Tai Chi stance, the Tai Chi walk, mountain climbing stance, cat walk. Actually, I don't think people refer to bow stance as cat stance. They just refer to the Tai Chi walk as cat walk. Oh, by the way, you know, that forward always movement eliminates the rock back. We step, we turn forward 2, we rock back on 3, 4, and 5. Don't try this. Sorry, I used the T word. Don't do this with me. Just pay attention to the difference, right? It's what's known as a twist step, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And they may even eliminate the bringing in the foot step. So it's always forward. That's really tricky on the knees. So we do the 5 count. Water comes up against a block in its path. It finds its way around. The interesting thing is that the people who will say you always have to move in one direction will also assure students at some point in their training that, you know, sometimes you have to move backwards to move forward. Go figure. So, right, I'm getting into it in a Tai Chi-like fashion. I'm turning that foot out. I'm filling the foot, the hands are rising, I take my first step into my Tai Chi stance. 2, 3, the hands drop down, I pivot back. 4, pivot to the new direction, hands cross. 5, they're rising into 1. 2, turning, opening the wingspan. 3, the hands drop down. 4, I pivot, the hands cross. 5, they begin their rise. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into 1, 2, and a little casual close here. So, sorry for the little technical glitch that caused this to start late. I'll see if I can't figure out what's going on. I think maybe I need a new version of Chrome in my laptop. And hopefully that will solve it. So maybe tomorrow morning and next week we'll be able to be back with a little bit bigger, broader picture. Anyway, so there's that. Remember, if you're here, if you were here at the beginning, and you're in the Sachem Public Library program, there's something specific to that program that I have for you. But I cannot make it a public post. So drop me a line on Facebook Messenger, either through this page or through the Laoshi Lawrence McElroy page, and I'll share it to you. If you're comfortable with trusting me with, a mobile number, you have my mobile number. You can send me a text. I'll text you back the information, or drop me an email. You have my email addresses, and I will send you an email back with the information. So anyway, so there's that. Tune in next week for something I'm sure, probably, maybe, completely different. And let's see what else. I think that's about it. Thank you. If you have, you're welcome, Linda. You're welcome, Colette. If you have any questions or anything, share them in the comments as the day unfolds or when you watch the video, and we'll be sure to address them. Stay safe. Keep washing your hands. Wear a mask if you're outside amongst people. and continue listening to the medical professionals and the scientists about when it is safe to take the next steps in this current pandemic. Boucher, Steve, great to see you again. And Rich, you're welcome. And we'll see you next time. Ta.